What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with AC. We are here for the Gridiron Gamble, week number 14. We're going to tell you the picks against the spread this week in the NFL, which picks to bet on, which picks to stay away from. So week number 14, this means that we're a couple weeks away from the playoffs. These are a lot of big games going down this week. This is actually a pretty stacked schedule this week in terms of really quality games. And a few that really mean a lot in terms of playoff positioning and who's going to make the playoffs and who's not. So it's always tough to bet on those games because things like emotion and actual, who needs to win the game more plays into these games more than any other week, really, I find. Like, typically, you can just go with the better team and the team that you think is going to win. But sometimes you'll be caught off guard in these last few weeks with wins by teams that you wouldn't expect due to the fact that they're fighting for a playoff spot or one team isn't, or just a variety of reasons that's happening at the end of the season. So, AC, do you have any advice when betting on these last few games of the regular season, and any other thoughts for week number 14?
Well, I think you're spot on by saying that the emotion plays a big factor. Some teams need it more than others. Some teams, not naming any names, some maybe get complacent. Maybe like that's what I'm obviously talking about the Eagles last week. Well, and then too with Vegas and the spreads, right? They seem to get it a bit more right later on in the season because if you think about it, obviously the Saints
I find that they
should have won the game, but Atlanta, the spread changed that at kickoff. Atlanta was actually the favorite in that game at kickoff. So it's like they did get that right. Obviously, maybe they shouldn't have. If Breeze doesn't throw that pick, they get it wrong. Because I think most people still, I would probably say 75% of people were probably picking the Saints in that game. And then two, there's not really many weeks left to make money because in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot in a way, especially against the spread because the spreads are closer. Obviously,
I would say it's not in terms of who's gonna win. I think most people get those right, but like the spreads, I don't know. Honestly, I've had some success in the playoffs because I just bet on the Patriots.
No, for sure. Like if obviously that's the best way to go is like you kind of need to pick that Super Bowl champ. Yeah, but if you're going to do that too, you're better off just like getting better odds by picking them at the beginning of the playoffs to win the Super Bowl with a futures bet. Like I know the Eagles are getting more and better odds as the days go by, especially since they last lost. This week most of my picks are to a certain extent about which team needs it more, and then I think some teams that are technically in the playoff race maybe aren't that great, and that's kind of one of my picks, but it's still going to be a pretty tough game. But for the most part, like I feel like these next 2 weeks are big maybe money makers just because there's 16 games going on each week. But then by week 16, 17, you don't really know.
17, you never bet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why these next couple weeks, you kind of want to get it in because when the playoffs start, you're kind of done with being a lot of options, right? Like you only have four games a week, and it dwindles.
All right. So week 14 already had a game on Thursday night. Atlanta did take that game. It was a really good game. Just putting it out there. I think we all picked the Saints, so it was interesting. I considered betting on that game, but it was a really. I considered taking the Saints. Thankfully, I didn't because when I was going to take them, I think they were -2. So, I didn't. But let's just start off with the team that I did pick. The first pick that I have this week, and I haven't looked at the spreads in a couple of days because usually I'm one that like takes the spread as soon as I can.
Yeah.
I have Minnesota. I don't know. It might have gone down actually. Like I might have made the wrong move
I have the updated one, so I'll let you know.
Okay, what is the updated one?
-2.5.
Okay, so I have -3, which -2.5 is a lot better. I bet on Minnesota when they were -3, and I think Minnesota is going to win this game, clearly. I think that they're going to win it by more than a field goal. I saw that tape at Carolina, New Orleans, because I was unable to see the game live because I was at the Patriots game. So what I saw there is that Cam Newton doesn't have any help on offense. He has one receiver who is adequate. He's not great. Devin Funchess. He's going to be taken out of this game. Xavier Rhodes is going to be all over him. He took Julio Jones out of the game last week. They only allowed the Atlanta Falcons to score 9 points. It's going to be Cam Newton by himself. They're not going to be able to run the ball. Their offensive line isn't fantastic. I just don't see a way where Carolina is going to consistently move the ball against the Vikings defense. Very tough defense, playmakers at every level, and it's just going to be very difficult to get anything done. I mean, I don't see a matchup one-on-one that they can consistently win. Then defensively, Carolina's defense, I feel, is a good defense, but I feel like at times it's a little overrated because it's not a defense that takes over a game and kind of dominates. It's a defense that's consistent. It'll hold you, but it won't necessarily dominate or win you a game overall. And I just really like the way that Case Keenum is playing. He's very consistent. He's not making any mistakes. Their run game's okay, but I think Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs will actually give problems to that Carolina secondary. Adam Thielen, man, he is starting to become the new Jordy Nelson in terms of like a player in the past where Jordy Nelson was always underrated because he was that white dude that was actually really good and nobody really gave him the respect. I think Adam Thielen's becoming that same sort of player where he gets by, he beats people, like straight up one-on-one, he beats people, he runs away from people. And I feel like he's like Jordy Nelson now. I like the Vikings in this game. I think that they're just overall the better team, even if they're on the road. And yes, Carolina needs to win this game. But I just don't see how Carolina, like, unless Carolina gets some crazy shit, like a kick return, punt return, defensive touchdown, the Vikings just match up too well with this Carolina team. And I would have told you that Carolina would beat them a few weeks ago, but just the way that Carolina has looked recently, I'm a little bit down on them as of late. So that's my thoughts. Yeah, no, and I think you actually picked the Panthers. So I want to hear your thoughts. The reason
why I picked the Panthers was I wanted to either pick against the Saints or pick against the Vikings this week. And I chose, that was my thinking behind it. And because I picked the Saints, because I really was thinking of taking the Falcons, and if I took the Falcons,
I thought about it too.
I was going to take the Vikings. For some reason, I took the Saints, and then when I got to that game, I'm like, this is kind of the one where they might not win this game, but I'm looking at a situation like the Eagles going into Seattle. The Seattle wasn't playing very well at the time. Obviously the Panthers don't have Russell Wilson, but if Cam Newton has the potential to do things like Russell Wilson can do, extend drives. They do get Greg Olsen and Ryan Khalil back this week, which I think could change the dynamic. I don't know how healthy Greg Olsen's going to be, but for my pick, it wasn't like it was 100%. We pick every game, and it was more because those two games I kind of like the underdog, and I chose to go with the Saints. And then in this one, I chose to go with the Panthers. But obviously, Minnesota's a great team. But if you think about it, who wants it more? I think this is more of a game that the Panthers, they just saw the Saints lose. You know, they can stay one game back if they win. I think it's going to be close, like the spread says, and Carolina might be able to sneak one out. But if Minnesota does win, it's 2.5, even 3. It's not that big of a deal. Worst case scenario, obviously Panthers win, but you still can probably, if Minnesota wins, they're definitely going to cover. So it is a good bet. That's just kind of what I was thinking with the Panthers pick in our pick'em, but I'm not, obviously we pick every game, so you don't have to be confident with every single game. You know what I mean? And that was one that was just, I kind of went with.
Usually you're not a person like me that picks just every underdog ever. So like,
no. And that's like, I think that was like one of the few underdogs, which is, it's still like, obviously Minnesota's the best team in the NFC. The Panthers are kind of,
but I also think that Minnesota, it's not like they have nothing to play for. They have first seed to play for.
No, I know, but still,
like they have to get that first seed.
But like I've said before, though,
because their first seed, if they get home field, AC, they have home field in the Super Bowl.
No, and I understand that, but I still think teams don't look at getting home field advantage. We've heard every single team.
Yes, they do.
Not week by week.
Yes, they do.
I don't know. I don't think they do.
At this point in the year, I think they do.
I think it's week by week, but I think you can get ahead of yourself too, and the Panthers are just thinking about winning this game. Maybe Minnesota's thinking too much in the future then.
Again, I just don't see straight up like how Carolina, unless Cam Newton pulls something out of his ass, I don't see how Carolina is is going to beat them, but that's just my opinion. So what's your first bet of the week?
I'm taking Green Bay -3 against Cleveland.
I thought about this one.
I just think this is a game Green Bay can win. Huntley's been better. The defense has been playing better. Matthews looked like his old self again last week. And it's just the Browns, right? I think this is setting up to be an 0-16 team. 3 points. I know Green Bay is not the greatest, but I do think they're going to make things interesting. Even if they win this game and Rodgers comes back, it's going to be tough for them. But I still think they win this game to make it interesting for NFL fans down the stretch with the Green Bay Packers. I think that Huntley's been playing better, and it's just this is just a bet. When you see 3 points against Cleveland, it's Cleveland, right? And it's 3 points. It's a field goal. It's, they might be close. It could be a 1-touchdown game, but that's still enough to cover the spread.
There's a lot of people that think this is the game that Cleveland's going to win. I think that's why that's the spread. But like I said in the predictions in the weekly preview, the Packers have too much to play for here for them to lose this game, in my opinion. That's why I like the bet. I'm surprised it actually hasn't gone up. It started going, it went up and then went down to 3 and then back up to 3.5 and then down to 3. So it stayed at the 3.5, 3 range. But 3 I like more than 3.5 because at least what I've been saying is I've always, me, I've always been a fan of just even getting a wash, even if it's a 3 points and it's, if you do get that non-half spread and it hits the spread, whatever, you just get your money back, you move on, you put it towards another bet. Yeah. All right. I understand that one. Nothing really to talk about it. It's a good bet, in my opinion. The next game I have is your Philadelphia Eagles +2.5. I have the Eagles winning this game straight up. So whenever you can get points when the team that you think is going to win, in my opinion, is a good bet. Obviously, it would be nicer if it was 3, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because I think it will probably get closer to even than anything. But I think that the Eagles overall are a team that's going to come out, I think, a little bit angry, a little bit on the edge after losing to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. And they didn't lose to the Seahawks. They lost to Russell Wilson. Yeah. Russell Wilson is a one-man show. He's tough to prepare for. If you can't practice for Russell Wilson. No. And the thing is, a team as good as the Eagles, they can lose those sort of games because they're just not. There's no way of really, prepping for it or really playing against it. So, and they were up for a loss. I mean, it was time that they had a loss. They haven't lost in a long time. They were riding really high. I think this game, They shifted back. They kind of looked, okay, what's our weaknesses? How can we fix this? How can we go forward? And I think the Rams are a team. Jared Goff isn't going to Russell Wilson you. I think the defensive line of the Eagles are going to bounce back here. And I think that overall the Eagles can run the ball in this game. They've had a little bit of difficulties running the ball recently. But I think if they get back on track in the running game this week against the Rams, who typically aren't very good against the run, that can kind of get Carson Wentz and their whole offense going. And this is the Wentz versus Goff Bowl. I think there's a slight edge to this game in terms of Wentz, being that he was the guy that was picked second, not first. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think the Eagles are overall the better team. I see the Rams as a good team, but I see the Eagles still as a team that can get to the Super Bowl. And I don't see the Rams as a team that can do that. So that's why I'm going with the Eagles here +2.5.
Yeah, I like the Rams, and I think what you said, the pass rush. You put Jared Goff on that Seattle team last week, and the Eagles win because obviously the Rams O-line is better, but I still don't think they're gonna be able to block consistently against that team to give options downfield. Because what we've seen with the Eagles, they're pretty decent covering short. It's just if plays get extended, like any defensive backs, you know what I mean? That's why Wilson's so good. If you extend the play for 7 seconds, even the best corner in the league has a tough time covering for 7 seconds because
even Deion Sanders would have difficulty.
Like the route ends after 5 seconds, basically. And you know what I mean? Like if it's a post, the guy's already runs out of room and has to do something else, and now the corner's like, okay, what do I do? And I think that was a big problem. I do think they're going to be able to pressure Goff. I think they're going to be able to stop the run. I think this is a game, too, that we're going to see, like, Goff is going to have to win it. Similar to Wilson, because I think Goff's been helped out. Obviously, he's played great. Nothing but good things to say about Goff. But I don't think he's single-handedly really had to take the game over himself. The defense has been decent in having Todd Gurley being productive, has been good for them. I still always, obviously the receivers are decent, but Sammy Watkins can have a bad game. No Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp, I think, has gone down a bit since Woods. He's been getting targets, but he hasn't had the big plays. I think the Eagles can definitely win this game, but everyone wants to see, though, of how this happens too, right? Because we've been in LA the whole week, which is always tough. But like I said, I thought they were going to go 1-1. Obviously, I had them winning the Seahawks and maybe losing this game. I said 1-1 was good. So I do think they come out back on top. And I do think overall they're a better team than the Rams. Maybe the coaching edge, though, we'll see, because Peterson can make some stupid calls. And I think McVay? McVay. He's wins the coaching edge, in my opinion, in this game. But obviously, I think the better team is the Eagles. But we've seen Peterson going for it on those fourth downs against the Seahawks when they could have kicked 2 field goals and maybe had an 8-point game late instead of a 14. There was just some bad play calls. And I want to see more of Ajayi instead of Blunt. Blunt's better with a lead late in the game when you could just pound him. I don't think he's a good first and second quarter when the game's close. He had some good runs, but it seems like they just sometimes stack the box and he can't get away. And I think maybe it's a bit to do with play calling, but I'd like to see Ajayi get a little more, just a couple more touches. But yeah, I do think the Eagles definitely can win this game. And when you can take the money line -2.5 or +2.5, and if you take the money line, it's probably like 2.3 to 1, 2.2, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's good odds to take an underdog in this situation that obviously is a top team in the NFL against another good team. And we've seen the crowds in LA that you're going to see a lot of Eagles fans at that game as well. It's not going to be as loud. Rams were actually practicing with a silent count this week.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Like that's, I'm not saying that the fans in Seattle want it, but that's a very tough place to play. And I know I was saying most of the season late because they had those bad losses that like people aren't scared to play in Seattle. When Russell Wilson is playing like that, plus with that crowd, it's a very scary place to play. But you need everything firing, right? Like when they're playing good and that place is rocking.
It's like Lambeau, basically.
Exactly. So I do think I don't think the Rams have an edge like home field or anything like that. But yeah, no, I like that bet. I'm not taking it, but I do like that bet.
Okay. I do want to just mention quickly, like on top of what you said about the receivers for the Rams, I think Robert Woods not being in this game is kind of big because the Eagles secondary, still a little bit of questions about them. I mean, they've been
Darby had his worst game, but was up to that point when he came back has been very good, but did have his worst game of the season.
This is something Darby has practiced against Sammy Watkins before. I think this is going to be kind of a wash of a matchup with Watkins and Darby. So I think Cooper Kupp, I think he's going to see a lot of attention from the Eagles defense. And I think it's just going to be difficult for McVay in this game. You said they had the coaching advantage to kind of schematically get these guys open because I think the Eagles will be able to match up pretty well with what the Rams are able to do in the passing game. So what is your next bet, your second bet?
Okay, I know a lot of people are taking the Cardinals, but I think Tennessee continues to roll. They continue. I don't know how they're like.
I took the Cardinals to win the game straight up.
No, I know, but no AP. He's out. Didn't they have another injury on their defense as well? I believe. It's just Tennessee beats these mediocre teams, and that's why talk about a bad, good team. Can I just say, like,
did you know the Mariota stats?
Yeah, no, they're not great. That's what I'm saying. But this is a team
more interceptions than touchdowns.
No, I know, but this is a team that somehow they just win. They just win.
I know.
Games.
I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm just saying Mariota has stunk big time.
Oh, for sure, he hasn't been great. But I do like. What are we talking? We're talking about what? Drew Stanton?
No, blame the Magic Man, Gabbert, bro. He's gonna get it done.
I just don't think like they played decent enough against the Rams, and then in the third and fourth they let it go. And I think this is going to be a close game, but I do think Tennessee pulls it out. It's only 3 points. Tennessee's been able to beat teams like this all season long. Doesn't matter how they do it. They just get W's against these teams.
They're eventually going to lose one of these games. I think Arizona is a tough matchup for them personally, because I think that, think about it, it's the Pittsburgh versus Pittsburgh matchup.
It was Josh Brown who was out as well, and Peterson.
Okay, you have Arians versus Dick LeBeau. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Two Pittsburgh guys. I think Gabbert's going to be able to move the ball. I really do. The secondary is not very good.
I know, but it's bizarre about that secondary. Like I said, that defense
can shut down that run game, and Mariota has played like absolute dog crap. This is going to be a tight football game.
No, but I'm just saying I like the 3 points because I think if Tennessee does win, they're going to be close to the line, but I think they're going to pull it out. And when we talk about that defense, the stat I love about that Tennessee defense is they've given up the fewest 20-plus yard plays in the NFL.
Yeah, because they played bombs.
No, I know. But it's still an impressive stat going into. We're in week 14 now, and we're talking about a team that's what
they got. Can you just admit this? They have to be the worst 8-4 team of all time.
I know, but I just give them credit for like winning close games, and that's why people don't like them, because they're winning close games against bad teams. But somehow they've had multiple fourth quarter comebacks or scoring late, and they just get it done, which I appreciate that. And I've only watched like one or two, but I've seen one or two full games, and I've seen a lot of the highlights. I just impressed with how they just continue to win under the radar. And 8-4. That's pretty impressive. Like, no one even would call them a top 10 team in the NFL, even though their record would say they're a top 6 or 7 team in the NFL.
God. Anyways, I understand what you're doing there. I can't get behind a team like the Titans. I can't do it.
Every time I pick the Titans too, it's worked out against these bad teams with these small spreads, right? Like, yeah, it's worked out.
Anyways, I'm gonna go here. This is an interesting one. You're a fan of the Steelers, so I want to hear. I'm
taking that game as well.
Baltimore?
Oh, but you're taking the opposite. You're taking Baltimore
plus 5.5. It
went down. It went down to 4.5.
Okay. Well, I have it at 5.5 here. I don't know. Okay, 4.5. I'll still take it. Not as confident, but I'll still take it. The Steelers have won 4 straight games plus by 3 points, something like that.
Yeah.
Against bad teams that aren't as good as the Ravens. This game's on Sunday night. The team to beat Mike Tomlin's Steelers the most times on Sunday night is the Ravens. The Ravens defense is very solid. I think this is going to be a brutal, hard-nosed football game. The only reason I picked the Steelers to win is because I think that Joe Flacco, I don't think he can do enough through the air. But I do think that they can run the ball in this game, especially with Ryan Shazier out. I think Ryan Shazier out is huge for this team, because not only in run defense, because of his agility to move sideline to sideline, that I think the Ravens will be able to take advantage of, but in zone coverage, having to play TJ Watt last game at middle linebacker is not a good thing. The amount of zone coverage this team plays, how Flacco loves his pass to his running backs and his tight ends. I think that they can find some weaknesses in there. And I really like the defense for the Ravens. I think they'll slow down that run game. And I think they're smart enough to make somebody else beat you other than Antonio Brown. Obviously, not having Jimmy Smith there hurts a lot. But I think that the Ravens will be able to find a way to keep this a low-scoring, tight football game within 4 points. So, and this is always a great game. So I have the Ravens, for me, plus 5.5. But if it's 4.5, I would still take it. I wouldn't be as confident in it, but I'm still taking it. I just think this is too many points against your rival after a tough game, after an emotional win, after a comeback, looking ahead to the Patriots. There's a lot of variables for the Steelers that I don't like.
Okay, I have the opposite. I'm taking this game. First of all, Baltimore is 3-3 on the road. So they've lost majority of their games playing on the road. Second of all, Pittsburgh has won by an average. In their last 3 meetings, they've won by an average of 10 points, because obviously they beat them bad early on in the year. I get what you're saying about the defense, of Baltimore's defense, and then what you're saying about the Pittsburgh's defense. But even without Ryan Shazier, this Ravens offense is not very good.
I understand that. But for some reason,
it is not very good.
The Ravens,
this is a team, if they sneak into the wild card, will lose. Can't beat anyone in the playoffs.
You know what, AC? This game reminds me of that game last year with Antonio Brown reaching the ball over the goal line in the last second.
Yeah,
that's true. What this game is going to be like to me. I think this is just that game where it's just super tight. Doesn't matter how good the Ravens are. It's just going to be that type of game to me. That's just the way I see it going down. So.
And that's
I don't know.
Close. That was and even with that touchdown, it was a 4-point. But say if they were down a bit more, it could have been you know what I mean? It was a 4-point game.
And the Steelers are scaring me these last few weeks. They shouldn't have even won against the Bengals. It was just the Bengals. They stink.
I know, but this is another team too where I've been saying this, that they seem to be able to win games. I know the spread, so I just think Pittsburgh's going to come the other way with having a close game, and then they go back at home, and then they get one of their big wins that we've seen in the past. But yes, division game, it's close. But the one thing I've been giving credit to the Steelers, regardless of how bad they looked, if the other team gave the win to them or what people want to think, I still appreciate the Steelers being 10-2 and only have lost twice and have been able to pull out these games if it's either them making plays or the other team just stinking. They've been able to win games, and I just think 4.5, I just like Pittsburgh better. And the opening line actually was 7, so it's dropped down a lot. So Vegas thought they were a 7-point favorite, Vegas, to open up, and then obviously everyone else has brought the spread down, and I do like that as well, because if Vegas thinks right off the bat they gave them 7 points and now it's dropped down, it's just because the street is making it drop down, the market's pushing it down. But Vegas did their research at the beginning to make it a 7-point game, so I do think they have a potential to win by 7 points. That's what I'm thinking. I do think they cover, but I think it's gonna be a close game. It's still gonna be a close game, and they can win by a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to that game regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Okay. So we both talked about that game. My next game.
It's been a while since we've had opposite picks on the same pick. Yeah, it's been at least 8 weeks.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I've been doing well the last few weeks, so now that we're kind of going back and forth here, we don't have the same picks. It's going to be interesting. My next one is, again, the weekly pick, the New England Patriots minus whatever the hell they're minus whatever. It's 11.5. Yes, they're without Gronk. Yes, it's in Miami. I don't care. Patriots are going to blow them out. I just bet on the Patriots every week now because that's just the thing to do. If they lose the spread, they're probably not going to lose this game. I'm 99% sure they won't lose. But if they lose the spread, which I think is, I had it at 11.5. I think it's still 11.5.
Yeah, it's 11 now.
Okay, 11. It's just okay, but they win almost every week against the spread since a certain point in time. They've been on a roll. Their defense is giving up barely any points. Chris Hogan's back this week, so that is nice without Gronk. And I love the way their run game is playing with Lewis, and Burkhead should be able to take advantage of the Miami Dolphins run defense. And Tom Brady, I don't have to say much. Jay Cutler's in there, so that's even more of a chance of the Patriots covering because you never know with Jay Cutler with a pick 6 or he could throw 4 picks in a game. I don't know with Jay Cutler. So yeah, I just love the way the Patriots are playing. I think this is a tune-up game going into next week. And without Gronk, I think they'll have something to prove. And they'll power their way through this team. And I just like the way the defense is playing as well. So I'm going to go with the Pats.
Yeah, you know what? Compared to other games, you always say that New England plays the Jets close. Miami hasn't played the New England close since 2016. No, since 3 seasons ago, 2016. January 3rd, they won 20-10. But other than that, September 18th, 2016, they won 31-24, which still is 7 points. Then Jan 1st last year, they won 35-14, and then earlier this year, they won 35-17. So I agree with you. I think Miami just doesn't have what it takes to win this game. New England's going to continue to roll. New England doesn't lose to bad teams like this. The one thing I was kind of thinking about this game, not for New England to lose, but I guess you could say Miami was playing a really bad team last week, and they looked good, somewhat good last week.
The only reason
we all took Denver because they looked so bad before, and then all of a sudden Denver had a shitty game, and Miami was firing on all cylinders in every aspect of the game, and they win big, which I don't think a lot of people were expecting. But then now you go back to New England, you don't really have a chance at making the playoffs or anything. So I think New England is going to take them.
Yeah, I think the only reason I was a tad bit concerned is there's no Gronk. But other than that, I don't think that there's really much of a concern.
And it's prime time too. And it's
prime time, which Miami has been terrible in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Your next bet.
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay. My last bet.
Wait. No, because I agreed with you. I was thinking that was my bet. I was going to pick another one. But I do agree with you on that one. That would be my fourth one. Okay, just throwing out a fifth one. I do like Dallas minus 3.5. I know it's tough.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but
I'm still not convinced that the Dallas offense can score very many points.
No, and maybe the new coach changes things with that. Yeah, with that Giants
and the Eli comeback redemption
because besides the wide receivers that he's missing, that defense is still the same group. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they don't have Jenkins at least, so Dez should actually be able to get open. Maybe.
Well, just by running one direction, or just like looking back and just getting a hitch and then trying to stiff arm 5 guys for 8 yards. You know what the thing about
Dez is? This is a total tangent, but like Dez is one of those receivers where he needs a quarterback that trusts to throw him the ball, because he's not a receiver that gets open.
No.
He's just a receiver that's going to catch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he'll go up and get it, but, like, Dak doesn't throw it to him like that. Like, Romo did that, and Dez was better back then, too. Like, he would actually get open. And nowadays, he can't do that.
And going back to the Eagles, I'd like to see a bit more of that from Wentz, because, like, Wilson does it right.
Jeffrey is the same way, for the most part.
Yeah, like, no, but they still get him the ball. I feel like he's still been better than Dez this year.
He has been, but I mean, he's still kind of one of those like big body guys that just.
But I just think Wentz, being a second-year player, doesn't trust those guys enough to do that. Like, look at Wilson. Yeah. Wilson throws it up to Richardson's one-on-one. He doesn't care. He doesn't care who's out there. Also, you know what I mean?
Wilson's that quarterback that doesn't even look and he throws it back.
No, 100%. But he knows their guys there one-on-one, and most case the chances are. The DB is not going to pick it off. So worst case, it's like a batted ball away, and he knows that. You get regroup, right? Like, I just like that about Wilson. Watching him is like he trusts guys like Richardson, like Lockett one-on-one, who's like small, right? Like, it doesn't care who it is. If he has one-on-one with someone, the chances are they're either going to catch it or it's just going to be batted away. Whatever, let's get a new down or we have to punt. But I like to see that more with. Wentz as well, but looking at Dak too, these guys are young. You don't really you learn that, right? I think they have. I mean,
Brady barely does it though. Like, he does it occasionally.
Yeah, but Brady's so good. He doesn't. He can just throw wherever he wants, and like
that's
he gets
true.
good time in the pocket.
Guys open. That's the thing.
And he gets time in the pocket. I just think when you get to a point where maybe you guys around you. You got to like take those chances and those big plays.
Yeah.
Because no one's as consistent as the Patriots in the way they run their offense. So I can understand it works for them not to do it.
Well, also the thing that I didn't really consider when I said that was Brady throws people open too.
Yeah.
Like, where he puts the ball allows the receiver to be open when some quarterbacks can't do that. It's a very rare skill.
And talking about Tom Brady, like, he's the greatest of all time. He's the exception. He's not the rule. Like, he's a freak of nature. But yeah, I do like Dallas, but I'm still repping. I like Eli's back. I'm repping his alma mater right here, Ole Miss.
Oh, God.
Where'd
you get that?
Oh, Army and Navy, the best. I used to live in my neighborhood in Gastown. There's an Army and Navy, and you can get, like, the universities. I got random ones, like Arkansas. That's the only random gear I rock because they're comfy and they're just like...
Oh, yeah?
Unis, Ole Miss. I got Arkansas, the best. I had like a San Antonio State University. Go Roadrunners.
Okay, my last one, throwing it out there, is the Oakland Raiders +4. Okay, I think there is a good chance that Oakland actually wins this game. I have no idea who is going to win this game, to be quite honest with you. But Oakland won the first one, and Kansas City's played even worse since then.
Yeah.
And they don't have Marcus Peters.
Yeah, and Cooper killed them last time.
But Cooper is not playing.
No, I'm saying Amari Cooper. Yeah. Oh, Amari Cooper's not playing.
Yeah, Amari Cooper's not playing. Peters isn't playing. Amari Cooper isn't playing. But I think the Raiders have been playing better, especially on defense. They made the defensive coordinator shift to Pagano, and I think they've actually played a little bit better in that regard. And they still have something to fight for too. They're in the same position as the Chiefs. So to me, I'm just taking, throwing it out there. Hey, why can't the Raiders win this game? If anything, it's going to be close. The Chiefs can't even freaking stop me and Kevin Olenek playing on offense. So I don't know. Why not?
Yeah, and I'll my last one, if I had to do anything, I want to know what Stafford does, but if Stafford plays, Detroit easily wins that, and it's a pick 'em against Tampa Bay.
I agree.
Like, it's just, I have no idea what's going on. I don't want to have that as a pick to put money down. Because,
Who in the hell is the Detroit backup? I'm 100% sure Stafford's going to play.
I joked around with a buddy who's a Lions fan. I was like, is Orlovsky still the backup there?
Yeah, like I have no idea.
I thought he was. No, I think they had a rookie, right? Didn't they they have a rookie that was like a 5th round draft pick. Could be a Hall of Famer. I gotta find this out. Yeah, no, I just remember all their backups. Remember they had
I just remember them having John Kitna for like years.
Yeah, but then remember number 14? Like they had that guy something. No, and there was another guy like way back.
Not Harrington.
Oh, yeah, Jake Ruddock.
Oh.
From Michigan, 2nd season.
Okay. Interesting.
Wait, I gotta get this guy's name. I used to have his football card.
Anyways, those are our picks for week number 14. We'll get to some comments real quick, and then we'll shut it down. Bodo says, no, you get better odds just betting the Pats to win the Super Bowl after the first 2 games because the odds go up because most seasons, most of the time, the Pats look beatable and people overreact. That's true.
True, but it's tough to pick a Super Bowl winner the first 2 games. I'm just saying when the playoffs start, like say if the Patriots are 3-1, I'd say max they'd be 3-1, right? Like I don't think they'd be higher than that going in. They'd probably be like 3-1, but I think that's good odds when you look at it because it's only there's only 8 teams in there.
AC, who do you think? I was questioning this because I made my list earlier today. Teams that teams that could potentially beat, or this was on the recap. Teams that could potentially beat the Patriots. And I had Eagles, Vikings, and I think my third team. Who was my third team? Okay, those were the top 2. I don't remember the third team. But who do you think has a better chance? The Saints or the Steelers?
I think Shazier changed things, but I'm still not a big Saints fan. I just feel like the Steelers have more of the grit to beat them. If that makes any sense. I still feel like Saints are a bit soft, but maybe that's just still my preconceived notion of the Saints from the past that are just more of an offensive, throwing the ball all the time. Yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah.
I think the Steelers do have a chance. We'll see next week, but I do think the Steelers have somewhat of a chance. But I do agree with you, Shazier is going to hurt them. But I do think Watt is that much of an athlete that he's not going to do what Shazier did, but he's still going to – he seems smart enough that it doesn't matter where he is. He's just a football player that if they do put him to the middle, he'll be able to figure out somewhat. He won't be as good as Shazier, but I don't think it hurts him too much because you still have Vince Williams stuff in the run, and Vince Williams actually played very well when Shazier was out of the game last week. But he can't be in coverage, right? He's just a 3-4.
That's the thing against the Patriots.
He's a 3-4 second inside linebacker.
Bodo says, Eagles are too young, go on the road to prove themselves. Rams will win 7+ by 7+.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see 7+, but I do.
The Rams are young too, though. I don't really get that argument.
I know, but it's just he's saying like they go on the road to LA. They've been in LA a week. But I do think this team's focused. I think it was a punch in the mouth that we're going to see. Are we going to see a team that doesn't care? And, okay, we're 10-1? Because that punch in the mouth was big enough that opened a lot of guys' eyes that they're not going to be dancing around anymore. They were going through a pretty nice stretch there when they were winning games, and by the end of it, they're dancing around and choreographed dance. I think coach got them in shape, and especially Jim Schwartz for that defense. I think they're going to be ready to play because they know if they lose this game, if they lose this game and they win the next 3, which they have somewhat easy opponents, and they finish 13-3, in the playoffs, people will be like, this team's going nowhere. You know what I mean? So that's why this game, it doesn't even matter. If we win this game and then lose one of the next 3, that still won't matter. As long as we beat the Rams and we could say that, we beat a pretty decent team, especially the Rams beat the Saints. So you can kind of put the Eagles above the Saints. So it's interesting. But
the way that I see it kind of shaping up is I think first seed will be the Vikings. I think second seed will be the Eagles. Third seed will be the Saints, I believe. Fourth seed will be the Rams. Fifth seed will be the Seahawks. Or no, fifth seed will be Atlanta, and sixth seed will be the Seahawks. I think the Panthers are going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, well, this week's gonna we're gonna see a lot of what goes down.
The Panthers
and plus, we didn't really talk about that Seahawks Jacksonville game, which is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it on the picks video. But yeah, what do you think is going to happen in that game? Just thoughts, because we're doing actually live reactions to that.
I like just the way the Seahawks played last week. It's tough not to take the Seahawks. I hope they lose. I'm picking the Seahawks, but hope they lose. Like I'm just picking them because the way they played Wilson. I know it's this defense.
I think the only reason to pick them is Russell Wilson,
and that's what.
And that's an 100% verified fine reason.
Yeah, but I do hope they lose. So let's go Jags.
Okay. Yeah. So any other comments here? Steelers will most likely win by 2 or 3, says Bodo. Bodo says Titans have a bad point differential. I think it's -21.
Yeah. No, their losses have been real bad.
Kevin Durkant says Raiders win. And Bodo, another Patriot shot. He says, "Oh God, you said the Patriots have something to prove. They don't have shit to prove."
He was right, though. It is University of Texas, San Antonio. I said New Mexico, I think.
Okay. The point I was saying was, without Gronk, Belichick will find a way to motivate this team. Oh, you guys suck without Gronk. He'll do it. He'll try. Yeah. He'll do something. Anyways. All right. Thanks for joining us here on the Gridiron Gamble for week number 14. Hope to see you on Sunday for the pre-show. The pre-show where we just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. Also, Stardom and Sid'em will be out tomorrow. And Sunday, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Seattle Seahawks live reactions, myself and Dylan. And then Sunday Night Football recap. AC, will you be on there? Or
I might be.
Ravens, Steelers.
Yes. Yeah, I might be.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
JT O'Sullivan was the guy. Remember that guy?
Oh, that's JT. Yeah. I don't remember him. All right. Peace. JT O'Sullivan.